This is Oft Off Topic, a show where two men with the attention spans of a squirrel try and fail to stay on topic with the day's subject. Where will their oral meanderings take us? Well, stick around and listen, because today's Oft Off Topic is... In the first half of our show on Mr. T, we discussed his upbringing in the south side of Chicago, his possible hatred of trees, where he got his iconic gold chains, the bizarre Mad Max A-Team connection, and finally how he landed his role in Rocky III. We continue our story in 1984 when Mr. T was just starting his run as B.A. Baracus in the A-Team. Now the media saturation begins. With Mr. T stock at an all-time high, everyone wants a piece of him. First up, animation studio Ruby Spears come calling. Ever hear of them?
No, but I know of the cartoon that they made, so...
Yep. They did other cartoons, though, that you'll probably remember. I remember them anyways. Thundar the Barbarian, Sectars, and the Centurions.
I know of them. I've never seen any of them.
Thundar, I believe, was kind of like a, who is it? Wildcats, Battlecat, Thundercats knockoff, I believe. Sectars, I remember, was these guys that kind of wore like Centurion outfits, but they rode bugs, which I'm pretty sure that's what it was, which I thought was pretty cool at the time. It was very much a toyetic cartoon. Knights riding bugs.
Oh, yeah.
Kids will love this.
Kids like bugs.
And also the Centurions, which I vaguely remember. I think that was just another kind of, knockoff of Conan the Barbarian or whatnot. But these were not, top tier cartoons. These were the dregs that you saw in between Hanna-Barbera.
Oh, I immediately pictured the start of Cartoon Network. Do you remember when Cartoon Network started? That's all they had. Yeah, they had a couple of, eventually they had some like Dexter's Laboratory and, Powerpuff Girls. Yeah, I mean, when they first came on, it was all...
It was just like cartoon show.
OG and, Space Ghost. Like, not Space Ghost Coast to Coast, but like they're airing original Space Ghost. And yes.
And Speed Buggy and stuff like that.
So, it worked. They did that. They got some interest in it, and they started making their own stuff, and fair enough,
Yeah, you were talking like Late Night Black and White was one of the early things they did. It was old cartoons from the 20s and 30s, the old rubber hose stuff that they would set to like house music and trance music.
Yep.
Yeah, and they only showed it like 1:30, 2:30 in the morning.
Like we know who you are. We know why you're watching this.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but I think that did predate Adult Swim and a bunch of their original stuff.
Well, probably their original stuff. Absolutely, I believe it. I was thinking predating their stuff that like the old 50s and 60s stuff they were playing that no one heard about.
Oh, no. Ruby Spears came calling with an idea of a cartoon, and their idea was going to feature Mr. T, you guessed it, driving a van full of teenage gymnasts going around and solving crimes, to be precise.
Why gymnasts?
It was
gymnasts are not known for their, investigative abilities.
No, but they are known for being able to like somersault over walls and get into places and let Mr. T be like, hip, hip, up them over onto roofs and stuff. I think that's all it really was about, being like, how are we going to get all these kids to be like super athletic and be able to, jump over rivers and stuff and swim a bunch? I know, we'll make them gymnasts. But then again, I also have no idea. Maybe it's just an excuse for them all to wear the same tracksuit.
Like we need a one body type, and there was slap heads on them.
Pretty much, yeah. What kind of body type is this? Well, it's not a football player. Let's say gymnast.
Yay. Problem solved.
Yep. You can tell it's based off of Scooby-Doo. They're just like, hey, kids like this idea. We'll just throw a bunch of people in a van and have them solve mysteries. And it was very, very much, obviously, the basis for the awesome show Mike Tyson's Mystery Tour.
Yeah, that's what, honestly, I was thinking about that.
I did watch a little bit of that show. And is it good? No. But I'm guessing probably because they invested a lot of money in the Mr. T name and everything and hiring him, the animation did seem a little bit better than the jank of the time. It feels like they put a little more effort into it. Kind of one of those, hey, if anything was going to take off for us, we should probably do this. But it didn't.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine that. I mean, again, especially with the quality they had. Yeah, I know you said it was a little bit better than normal, or better than their original.
Well, let's say if the average Hanna-Barbera and Ruby Spears stuff from the time back then was a 3 in the cartoon rating of good cartooning, good animation, this is probably about a 4.5 or a 5. It's not that much better, but it is better, but not nearly as good as like the upcoming DuckTales era that we will be envisioning, where animation really took off in the Saturday morning cartoon department.
I like DuckTales.
I like DuckTales too. It was quite good. I do have the problem with it being a burnout because I watched every episode like 5 times because it was the only thing on while I was getting ready for school.
Oh, yeah.
See, I believe. Yeah, it was DuckTales, followed by Rescue Rangers, followed by Darkwing Duck, followed by... It kind of varied depending on the years, but...
Darkwing Duck's the best.
I did like Darkwing Duck. It also seemed like it was kind of the one that was more aged towards like the older kids in that group. It seemed to have more adult jokes in it than a lot of them.
Yeah, it was clearly just trying to rip off Batman.
Oh, very much so.
But still, really good. I loved it. Although I never really got the whole like launch pad. You know, like it's like well, you know, remember him from DuckTales? So yeah, like I guess we'll bring him in.
Yep. Yeah, I know. It's just like they had to have some sort of crossover going there. Oh yeah, Fenton Quackshell showed up there too as Gizmo Duck.
Yeah, he sure did, didn't he?
Yep. Gizmo Duck did show up kind of later in the series, I think. Gizmo Duck.
That was stupid. I hate it. I didn't like Gizmo Duck.
Yeah. Is it because he was a very obvious RoboCop?
No, I don't know. I thought it was stupid. I mean, not just like, that's a dumb character. I was just like, that's just dumb.
Yeah, I remember he kind of was a Deus Ex Machina for the series too, where he's like, hey, we don't know where to go. We'll just have Gizmo Duck show up and summon his little armor.
And we'll have the villain who's Electro, but it's not Electro.
So the show actually managed to make it 2 years and 30 episodes, which was kind of surprising to me. But the most important thing this show did is it is famous for giving voice actor and actor Phil LaMarr his first gig. You might recognize that name.
Phil LaMarr. That is...
And voice acting gigs, he was the voice of Hermes Conrad from Futurama and a few other voices there. Samurai Jack, Kit Fisto on Clone Wars, like most of the guys on Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. The list goes on. He was also on Mad TV and been
that's
actor
who
in
he
a lot of
is.
movies and stuff.
That's where I got Mad TV. He was also the guy who got shot in the face on Pulp Fiction, right?
I think he was actually.
I knew. I was like, no. I wasn't disputing the people you were reading off were, from him, but
That's just not
I'm
who
like,
you knew
no,
he
I
was
know the
from.
name from somewhere else, and sure enough, it was Mad TV.
Yeah, I recognize him because I don't know. I just read a lot of credits, I guess, on cartoons because he is in a lot of cartoons.
I didn't know that.
Oh, you didn't? Really? Oh, yeah. Look up his 1984 also saw the release of the Mr. T breakfast cereal that was based on the cartoon we just talked about. The Captain Crunch knockoff had an impressive 9-year run before it was pulled off of store shelves. 9 years, that's not bad for a breakfast cereal that's based off of a flash in the pan cartoon, I feel.
Yeah, I'm surprised it lasted so long. And I've never had it. Have you?
Neither did I. Everybody described it as a sugary version of Captain Crunch.
I mean, sure, that's all they're really doing. I mean, most likely it might just been Captain Crunch. Yeah, they just changed
it probably
took the Captain
was.
Crunch and made it to Mr. T's and then, or whatever they had.
Yeah. I don't even know if they are shaped in T's. I think they're actually kind of just shaped in Captain Crunch shape. Yeah, I think it might have been like the ultimate
We're not even going to try. We're change the box and that's it.
Yep. Actually, now I'm curious. I'm going to pop up and see what the actual shape of the cereal looks like. Oh, no, it was actually little T's. Yeah. At least that looks like T's. Kind of lazily made T's. Sort of like their extruder machine broke somewhere along the way, and they're just like, yeah.
Good enough.
We can work at this. Yeah, right? The kids, they won't care.
They're just like, sugar. No.
The Mr. T cereal also had some bit roles in Hollywood as well. It was an acting cereal, Nate. It starred in Pee-wee's Big Adventure, the 1992 comedy Boomerang, Stranger Things Season 3, Episode 7, the 2018 Transformers movie Bumblebee, and Rules of Engagement Season 5, Episode 16. That all had guest appearances by that cereal. Not a bad acting career for sugary breakfast cereal now, is it?
Why would they? I mean, I get that the 80s, the Bumblebee movie is set in the 80s, so fair enough. But I don't remember this.
Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah,
that was in the 80s to show Pee-wee was a childlike man eating his breakfast
What is the deal
cereals.
with Pee-wee? Because he's not a kid. He's not a man. And everyone seems to put up with this BS. We watched the most recent one. And Joe Magnolo, whatever his name is, and he met Pee-wee, and they became best friends. And he's like, "Let me invite you." And Joe Mandalorian is playing himself. So anyway, he runs into Pee-wee, and he's like, come to my birthday party. And Pee Wee's like, well, I've never left this small town, which, by the way, he rules. He rules a small town because I'm assuming his every morning routine, because, in all the Pee Wee movies, he wakes up and there's some big Rube Goldberg machine, wakes him up. And I mean, if this is his morning routine, he literally, skateboards through people's houses and steals their breakfast as they're eating at their table. And they're like,
Oh,
hi,
gotcha.
Pee Wee. Like, what is happening? There was no one stopping this man.
Everybody's just sitting around breakfast, and all of a sudden you hear this loud thunk at the door. It's like, Junior, did you forget to open the door for when Pee Wee rolls through at 7 in the morning?
No, I didn't forget. I did it on purpose because fuck Pee Wee.
Yeah, right. Fuck that dude. He took my last piece of peanut butter toast yesterday.
He took my last bit of peanut butter toast and fuck my girlfriend. That's right.
Yeah. And on top of that weed he gave me fucking sucks. So that was the newest one. I haven't actually seen
Netflix.
That.
It definitely has its moments. It's dumb as shit, but it has.
Okay. It's like the other Pee Wee movies where you're like, this is stupid, but it's all right.
And the best part, the girls I love too. He goes to this house of snakes or something, and he's terrified of snakes. And they go in there, and they turn the light on. The fakest snake you've ever seen is there. And he screams, and his scream is so high pitched, like glass breaks. It's hilarious. It's stupid, but it's hilarious.
Yeah, it's one of those where you laugh at, and then afterwards you're like, I kind of feel bad for laughing at that, but whatever. And as far as Pee Wee Herman, I know originally it was a stand-up comedy character Paul Reubens did that was it was supposed to be like a child in a man's body who was a pervert, and it was kind of like dark, pervy humor. I'm thinking.
Oh, you might be right. I have no idea.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. You don't know about that because I know it was part of Paul Reubens' stand-up routine.
I knew that. I did.
Okay, because you could actually see Pee Wee Herman doing coke with Tommy Chong in one of the Cheech and Chong movies.
Like as Pee Wee?
Yeah, I mean, he's not as Pee Wee, but it's Paul Reubens, and he's dressed exactly like Pee Wee Herman. And he's looking, and I think he even does a ha-ha kind of thing. But basically, he's just sitting at a table with Tommy Chong, and he kind of gives him his eyes like, eh? And Tommy's like, what? And Paul Reubens looks over, he's like, hey, points out a table, they both go to the table, and you start hearing sniffing left and right. And then they get them, their noses are all white because I guess that's what you did back in the 70s and early 80s. You just invited strangers to do cocaine under a table with you. It was a simpler time. Honestly, if I'm sitting at the bar and some dude's just like, hey, you want to go to the table and do some coke with me? I'm probably going to say no because that's just sort of odd.
Yeah. No, man, I'm not going to do all that.
Moving on from the breakfast cereal that Mr. T probably had very, very little involvement with.
Or didn't even know it happened. Like, what are these? What are these checks for?
Mr. T talking to his kid, be like, why am I on that box of breakfast cereal?
He gets all mad. What sick fuck put my...
I'm going to sue them. Dad, you were just talking about this the other day. He's like Krusty the Clown, where he's just endorsed so many things he just can't even remember.
Right. It's like, oh, that's what those checks are for. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So in 1984, he released a kids' rap album, as was the style of the time. Because, I don't know, I feel like everybody who was, big with kids or popular with the kids, they had to release some sort of rap album.
I blame those football
and usually
players.
At least one that, like the Super Bowl Shuffle.
I absolutely blame the Super Bowl Shuffle. Fuck those Super Bowl Shuffles.
Actually, this came out before the Super Bowl Shuffle by a year. Huh.
No, I still blame the Super Bowl Shuffle.
I would still too, because I mean, blame the Chicago Bears and Chicago. You know who else came from Chicago? Mr. T.
Who did start the whole rap thing? Because there was, every so often a rap. They've kind of stopped doing that. I don't know if Bartman was the last one to do it, but I remember that.
Oh God! Well, actually, I was just about to bring up the Bartman in just a moment, because have you listened to the Bartman song recently?
Not recently.
Oh my God! So you remember it? Everybody do the Bartman, If you can't Bartman.
Yeah, I knew all the words. It was awful.
Okay, yeah, yes, it was awful. Did you know that song is like 6 minutes long, Nate?
Oh wow.
Yeah, it because a long time ago somebody was like, "Hey, I remember that song. Let's pop it on." That song goes and goes and goes. It's like 4 times longer than it has to be. It is just mind-numbingly bad. And almost most of it is just literally like the background singers doing like, "Do what you can, do the Bartman man. Do what you can, do the Bartman man." And Bart Simpson just saying the occasional like weird lingo, like "don't have a cowman" over the top of it. That's like a good 2/3 of the song. It's bad. But as far as who got the celebrity rapping thing going, I don't know. Much like the Bartman song, the 1984 Kids Rap album had several songs that are far too long. The shortest song of all these is 4.5 minutes, which far too long. And the longest one clocks in at 5 minutes, 12 seconds. And they have fun titles like Mr. T's Commandment, Don't Talk to Strangers, The Toughest Man in the World, Mr. T, parentheses, He Was Made for Love.
Damn.
The one and only. Yeah, right. Mr. T, T. He was made for love.
Hey, children, gather around. Let's sing our favorite song.
This one's for the mothers listening in. As he puts on like this velvet smoking jacket and gets next to the piano. Hello, ladies. Put the kids to bed. It's time for Mr. T to do the same to you.
Don't worry, ladies. I'll be gentle, but I won't.
Yeah. The one and only Mr. T, No Dope, No Drugs, which kind of sounds like a knockoff of No Woman, No Cry or something like that.
Oh man, what if it was? What if it's literally like beat for beat, No Woman, No Cry?
Oh, that'd be so awesome. And you think the meaning of the song is no dope, no drugs in a good way, but no, it's like sad. It's like, I've got no dope, yeah. I've got no drugs.
It's a lament. No dope, no drugs.
Which is even better because the next song is You Got to Go Through It, which could be about withdrawals.
Like, all those shakes you can't get in the toilet. These are raps though, right?
Oh.
Were these raps? Or
was that?
These raps?
These were raps.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did each and every one of them start with "I'm Mr. T, and I'm here to say," and you go on?
I listened to a couple of them, but I was just like jumping around the song. But I don't believe they did. Although this almost sounds like a date with Mr. T, kind of. If you go to the toughest man in the world, followed by Mr. T, he was made for love, followed by the one and only Mr. T, followed by No Dope, No Drugs, followed by You Got to Go Through It. That could be a very interesting date with Mr. T too.
Mr. T and Not on My Hair. I have a date later.
All the kids are listening, just very confused, be like, "What does that mean?"
My wife's gonna kill me.
And the bonus track, I ain't paying no child support.
Right.
Yeah, the album is exactly what you think. It's just positive messages for kids, and it's just, there we go. And about around the same time, too, Mr. T also released Be Somebody or Be Somebody's Fool, which was a self-help video for kids. This one didn't have so much rapping, but did have some music in it. This video actually was kind of notable for having early appearances of Ice-T, The New Edition, and Fergie in it. It had breakdancing and rapping and a song about losing your mother with real mom singing backup.
Wow.
Yeah. Just help children with the grieving of losing a mother, because when your mother dies, the first thing you think is, Mr. T, I need help.
So, I mean, were they real moms? Like, what do you mean? Like, legit mothers? Like, we always hire mothers. Mothers was coming.
Yeah, apparently that's what the actual box ad said, was like, and a special song dedicated to mothers, sung by mothers. And, honestly, it probably was a lie, but they did. I saw a clip of the video, and all the moms were wearing mom clothes.
That was even my next question. Is like, is it mom clothes, or is it, sequin dresses or sexy ladies or something?
Yeah. It's not like they were singing and giving birth at the same time, so I can't really vouch for whether they were actual mothers or not.
Yeah, like, we're real mothers. Have in the background like a recording of their going through labor as proof.
And the producer's like, "Hey, man, when it gets to the breakdown, if you can start crowning the child at that moment,
come on, lady, crown on the beat."
Yep. That sounds like a song we could write. Crowning on the
beat. We could write it, but you will have sole credits because I will.
And that was a mistake that cost Nate millions of dollars in the long run. Right. And you're just like, motherfucker, I never would have guessed. He was showing up a lot on TV guest appearances too at this time, Mr. T that being on Different Strokes, Silver Spoons, a lot of Dare commercials, and showing up with Nancy Reagan and sitting in her lap, or she was sitting in his lap.
Oh man, that's that.
On a Dare
I
commercial.
prefer the original one. Like he was sitting in her lap. She's like, "Oh my god, my bones."
Reagan just in there be like, "I'm oddly aroused by this, mother.
I'm being deservedly murdered."
Nah. He was senile. He didn't know what was going on.
Man, so, I mean, going off another little tangent. The Dare program. I mean, I know I've told you before, but the only thing I remember the Dare program was a cop coming in showing us an enclosed box full of like pipes, and one of them was a toilet. And I just you're
like, wow, druggies have a sense of humor. They might be my kind of people.
I just remember going, oh, cool, look at this. As anyone knows, like that sound said, that did not work.
But yeah, Dare did not work. And at least in the town I grew up in, when Dare came by and was showing all drug paraphernalia and stuff, most of the students' reaction was like, yeah, I see my parents using that on daily. What this is nothing new. But yeah, Dare was very much not taken seriously by anybody I remember in school. Not one. Well, maybe like a couple of the really goody kids, but even then they might have just been looking for good grades.
Yeah.
The year is 1985. And yes, all this has happened by the year of 1985. He went from being like a nobody in, say, 1990 or 1977 and one of the biggest guys in the world in less than 10 years. That's pretty impressive in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good run.
Yeah, especially for back then. I mean, you can kind of do it. I feel like you can do it faster now with YouTube and this and that. But, back in the 80s, it's a harder nut to crack getting in the top 3 networks, or the only 3 networks.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty, back then, I hear they were pretty brutal. Because again, you only have a certain amount of time during the day, and there's only 3 networks. It needs to work or it's gone. And
nowadays, if like ABC or NBC needs more time to air, they'll just start up a new network.
Right.
We'll come up with NBC 3 because we need more channels out there.
Everybody needs more channels.
Yep. 1985, and Vince McMahon of the then WWF is starting up a little thing called WrestleMania and wants as much star power as he can get for the event because he knows this could be a make or break thing, not just for him, but kind of in wrestling in general. I mean, wrestling wouldn't have gone away if this failed, but it might not have hit full stride and become, in the daily lexicon of people as it did in the 80s. Because, I don't know, you weren't like a huge wrestling fan back in the day, but it was definitely a smaller, more local thing.
When I was a kid, I was a big wrestling fan up
shot
until
WWF into the stratosphere.
I don't know when I started, but I do know when I stopped. And I stopped when Ultimate Warrior beat Hulk Hogan for the title. And I actually walked down to our local video store and I rented the VHS for it because we didn't have cable. We didn't have it. So it obviously happened way prior. So we went back to my friend's house and we watched the whole thing. I remember getting all sad. Was that 4?
I believe that was WrestleMania 4. Yeah, I think so, or 5. It was one of the earlier ones.
Yeah, I mean, I was a big. I was not a Hulk Hogan to win. Let's make that clear. Yeah. I enjoyed wrestling, but Macho Man. Right, Macho Man was.
You weren't basing your whole life around.
I actually like Ultimate Warrior too. My guy was Macho Man, and I like.
Yeah. Ultimate Warrior is always just a little over the top for me, kind of. I mean, he's fine, whatever, if he's your thing, but I don't know, just a little too coke fueled, I guess.
Well, and then especially what happens later on in his life, where he became the super right wing nut job, conspiracy theorist. It's like, okay, dude,
oh man, I wonder if his website's still up because there are some of the more insane babblings I've ever seen on there. The Warrior Speaks, I think is what it's called.
It's like, thanks for coming.
Yeah, he talked everything in third person, like hard in third person. And he referred to himself as the Warrior, or at least he used to. The Warrior has a lot on his mind. And when you're a warrior like the Warrior is, living a warrior lifestyle. Because he actually changed his name to The Warrior, I believe. Because when he was I'm pretty sure I'm right on this, because when he was in WWF and everybody started migrating over to the WCW back during the, apparently, he wanted to go to WCW. However, Vince McMahon is like, I own the name The Ultimate Warrior. Screw you. And he's like, well, I'll just change my name to The Warrior legally. And he did that. And, he couldn't be The Ultimate Warrior anymore, but he could be the Warrior.
And I was watching, like, I'd stopped watching wrestling for quite a while, and then I picked it up. Like, my at the time best friend and roommate, we he was on wrestling, and so he was in WCW wrestling, and so I got back into WCW wrestling. It was just after Hulk Hogan became NWO. He like turned heel. That's about where I started watching, because I was like, oh wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, that was actually about when I started watching WCW too.
And then Ultimate Warrior came out, and of course they have their history, and or just Warrior, whatever. And then of course
I think it was actually the Warrior.
Yeah, and then he became an anti-NWO. It was his own thing, OWN. Yeah. But the thing was, like,
I just picture like a whole room full of writers at like 3 a.m. trying to figure that out.
Oh man, it was one Warrior Nation, and it was like he was there he got like a couple of followers that almost immediately left, and ultimately the name was literally One Warrior Nation, because it was just him, and it was a joke, and I don't know. I just remember it falling hard on his face.
Yeah. Yeah, he kind of just went off into obscurity after that.
Yeah. And good riddance. I mean, I hate it that we're living in a time where politics can affect how you like a certain a celebrity or not, but that's just where we are. So whatever. Yeah, I live in the world I'm in. So.
Well, I mean, it's not like he has a lot of redeeming values outside of
right. It's not like he's like, oh, did he also save children? No, he's
right. It's not like he's been donating kidneys his entire life.
You monster!
Apparently, he can respawn kidneys.
He may be a right-wing nut job, but every penny he makes goes to planting trees. Like, well,
yeah, right. Then maybe you could separate the artist from the art or something like that. But in this case, no.
Yeah.
And you know who is actually my biggest, who I liked the most during the old WWF days? Roddy Piper.
I liked him too. I really did.
I did too.
And that They Live, he was pretty good in that. I mean,
he was good in They Live.
Yeah, I mean, let's be real. It was no Oscars given out in that movie, but it was good. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, and for the time, it kind of had a twist going for it. Sort of like, where's this going? And also, the main actor does not live through the movie either.
That's true. I appreciate any movie that's willing to kill off their main character.
Actually, me too. I was just about to say that. I kind of like it had sort of a good ending. They got what they wanted, but it also kind of had a depressing ending. And like, hey, people had to make sacrifices. And then also, they never actually said that humanity won. I mean, they could have immediately lost that war.
Right. I mean, they came on.
Yeah, the end of it is basically he just revealed them all. We don't know what happened after that.
I mean, because they have their fingers and everything. So. Yeah,
I mean, it could have actually been a worse thing for him to do that. Now they're just like, well, the gig's up. Let's just round them up and put them into camps.
Right. Yeah, camps.
Yep. And everybody just hates Roddy Piper from that day on. We had it okay. At least we're ignorant to what was going on to us. Now we're hooked up to milking machines, and it's just awful. Yep, just as God intended. God also intended WrestleMania 1 to go off without a hitch. So Vince McMahon hired Mr. T to team up with Hulk Hogan, and the main event was going to be those two versus Roddy Piper and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, who were two of the biggest heels. So we got Hulk Hogan, the biggest face or biggest good guy in all of wrestling, teaming up with Mr. T, a beloved character on TV, going against two very hated wrestlers, Roddy Piper, Mr. Wonderful. So WrestleMania, the hype for WrestleMania is getting bigger and bigger. Mr. T and Hulk Hogan tour relentlessly this entire time, going on places like SNL, late night shows. And they're actually pretty good together doing promos and this and that. Some of them seem kind of set up where they get angry with interviews and this and that, but it's a pretty good time. And that also helps build up Mr. T's stock in Hollywood, because one thing that Hulk Hogan is good at is he is good at talking off the cuff and, giving interviews. And that's something that kind of picked up with rubbed off on Mr. T a little bit while this was going on.
So he was kind of like it was a schooling. I'm sure Mr. T had to pull, or Hogan pulled him aside, like, okay, look, man, let me give you the ropes.
Yep. And if you watch the interviews, Hulk Hogan does do the vast majority of the talking in them and stuff.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And like you just said, you've got this guy who's so focused on, he's been an entertainer forever. And like you said, it is a lot of off the cuff stuff. And then suddenly it's like, you get this guy who's like, I'm a bouncer. I can think on my feet. However.
Yeah. I mean, he's good in some situations, but not necessarily being interviewed with David Letterman. The touring hyped up WrestleMania enough for over 19,000 to be in attendance and over 1 million pay-per-view buys. That should work.
Why not?
Biggest wrestling event at the time. What were you going to say?
Why not? Let's roll with it.
Yeah, why not? So in a way, Mr. T, you could say he was pretty big on influencing wrestling in the way it was today. Because he was a big name that helped sell seats and helped bring WrestleMania into the limelight.
Yeah, WrestleMania.
One person that was not really happy with Mr. T being involved in WrestleMania, Roddy Piper. You see, Piper was a seasoned vet in the wrestling world, and he didn't like the fact that Mr. T wasn't a wrestler who paid his dues and only got on the show due to his looks and
Oh,
popularity.
Jesus Christ. It was just like the other guy.
Yep, sound familiar?
Yes.
It would be awesome to have a sit-down talk between George Papard and Rowdy Piper over a bottle of scotch just bitching about
And again,
Mr. T.
And again, just like the other guy, fair enough. But I think, I think any reasonable person would also recognize Mr. T is not here to stay. Mr. T is not going to be a wrestler. You're not going to be fighting him 10 years from now.
Yeah.
Hell, you're not going to be fighting him a few months from now. He's here while he's hot, and then he's going to go away.
Right. Mr. T's not here to take your job. He's not here to apply for the next Oscar-winning role against George Papard, and he's not here to win the titles away from Piper.
He didn't took her job. He just...
Yeah. That's actually almost exactly what they took her job.
I mean, again, he's a Hollywood actor, and he's just coming in to put butts in seats, and then he's going away.
He's a hired gun.
Yeah, your anger is wasted.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. Both of them are probably just angry people overall. Oh, I was going to say, now for some Mr. T controversy. Remember back in 1976, that story about him going to town on trees until they made him stop? That we talked about maybe he hates trees?
Yes.
Well, here's another instance that might back that up, where the tree-hating side of Mr. T once again rears its ugly head, this time in the town of Lake Forest, Illinois. So, Mr. T, with his mind, decided to purchase a large plot of property in a heavily wooded area of Lake Forest, Illinois, and immediately went to cutting down all the trees on the property. Well, not all of them, but over 100 trees on the property right off the bat. All told, he cut down over 100 old-growth trees, much to the anger of the neighbors, who even dubbed it the Lake Forest Chainsaw Massacre, making comments of like, why would you buy property here just to cut down the trees? Mr. T claimed it was because he had bad allergies and needed the trees gone for the pollen. But personally, I think back in the day, a tree said something not so nice about his mom, and he's really had it out for trees since then. One of them famous Chicago shit-talking trees, I'm guessing.
Right. That, he's just a dick.
Yeah, could be.
I'll admit, I am by no means like Mr. Environmental. I definitely, I'm not strapped myself to any foliage, but I will admit, it does kind of irritate me when people cut trees down.
Yeah, well, when they don't need to.
When they don't, yes, fair. When they don't need to. Like, there absolutely is a case to be, okay, these trees are too tall, or they're crowding undergrowth. Like, we can't.
Or these ones are talking shit about my mom.
Right, things like that. But like the other day, we were walking through the neighborhood, and these people cut down a tree just because they like this. And the thing is, they cut it down, but they still have the stump in their yard. So I was like, dude, I don't know. It just bothers me. Our yard has several trees. I'm like, we're renting, so it's not like I have any choice to knock them down or not, but I wouldn't knock them down even if I could.
Yeah, unless they're like growing into your septic lines or something like that.
Well, again, then that you're talking about, like, that's
a necessity.
Yeah, that's not like I'm a dick and I want to do it. That's like, well, shit.
Yeah, this tree incident with Mr. T actually made national news too. I remember it back in the day. I actually mainly remember it because my dad was big into trees and gardening, and he had a real fit over this.
Oh yeah, he hated the fact that
he hated. Yeah, I think he just wanted more of a reason to complain about a black person, though.
Oh well,
to be perfectly honest.
I can't believe he
did
did that.
Sad as it sounds, but
if only he was white.
Yeah. Then my dad goes out and just immediately starts cutting down trees for no reason, because he would do that too. But these are my trees; I'm allowed to.
I'm so mad. Chop, chop, chop.
Yeah, pretty much. Cutting down them trees wasn't against the law or illegal in any way, so the only real fallout from this was the city wound up putting in ordinances to prevent homeowners from doing the same thing again from then on out. So if you live in Lake Forest, Illinois, and you want to cut down a tree and can't, you can blame Mr. T for that.
Damn you, Mr. T.
Damn you. How dare. Although I will say that maybe this was a bad idea, because maybe those trees had a little bit of connections or some high-powered friends, because this was the same year that the A-Team got canceled. Do you think some of those trees might have had some connections? Maybe made some calls?
Yep, went through the grapevine to the pencils.
Yeah, yep. The famous Goldstein strain of trees. They're very powerful in Hollywood.
Damn straight.
That's a Jew joke.
Yes, it is. That's very bad.
So, also, here's kind of messed up. The A-Team did not make it to 100 episodes, which gets you that sweet, sweet, sweet syndication bonus that makes you a ton of money after the show goes off the air. They only made it to 98 episodes.
Oh, that's crap.
Yep. And this stuff has to happen on purpose because a couple more examples. Gilligan's Island, that only made it to 98 episodes. Partridge Family, 96 episodes.
Well, but here's the thing. Like, yeah, sweet, sweet distribution, but they did. I mean, A-Team still plays today, and so does Gilligan's Island.
But the producers are the only ones that make money off of it, not the actors.
I wasn't aware of that. I wasn't aware that the actors get.
The only way that actors get anything more than maybe just like a penny per showing or a fraction of a penny is if it makes it to syndication, which is 100 episodes. Otherwise, all the higher ups get pocket all the money.
Oh, that's
all the
that's
producers
crap.
And stuff.
I mean,
yep. So that's why the Gilligan's Island crew made minimum wage off of Gilligan's Island for having one of the most famous shows ever.
Yeah, that's crap. I've heard of stuff like that too. Like Hollywood does that. I'm listening to Kevin Smith talk about what, like, I think that's Clerks or Dogma or something like that. I think it was Dogma, and he ended up having to sue the Weisners because they're like they didn't get enough money, and he remember saying him going, well, I was so worried to talk about Harvey and stuff because I'm suing them, and they just didn't even care. They're like, "Oh yeah, I hear you're suing us. Oh well, haha."
Because we'll just put on the stack of 100 other lawsuits we have.
Yeah, and it's like they knew it wasn't personal; it was all with the money. They're like, "Yeah, we fucked you over, and you're suing us to get it back." Yeah, sure, okay, that's how it works.
Yep.
So
because they actually have lawyers that will sit down and be like, "Hey, we can fuck this guy over, get sued, pay them off, and still wind up
right, and never mind, all the rape, but there was also
yeah. That's what eventually got Kevin Smith the rape.
No, not Kevin Smith. Weinstein.
Well, Kevin Smith really wanted the Clerks to be made.
Either you're make it or I'm gonna do what you do to others. Oh God, no.
Yep. So that's unfortunately that A-Team guys didn't really make any money off the A-Team outside of what they made while they're working on it.
That's bullshit.
Yep, I completely agree. Mr. T's popularity would never be so big as it was with the A-Team, but he would be back in the saddle really quick with the 1988 show T&T. He played a boxer, T.S. Turner, framed for a crime he didn't commit. A spunky female lawyer named Amy Taylor who springs him from jail, and they team up and become T&T, the crime-fighting duo. Yay! As you can guess, it's about as cheesy as you'd expect. I couldn't picture me watching a lot of it.
I'm assuming they're trying to get away from the A-Team, and sounds like some fighter's not exactly a weapons expert. So what's the hook? I mean, it's just
a spunky female lawyer with a tough inner city boxer teaming together and fighting crime.
A spunky, so she's a lawyer. So she's not.
She's a young, inexperienced lawyer who springs Mr. T from.
So she's employing a convict. I mean, not even a convict, an escaped convict.
No, I mean, she springs him legally. She gets him off the hook.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, she's not young, spunky female lawyer sawing through the jail bar. I'm going to break you.
She arranged it. She arranged a crack team. People come out there and killed all the guards, and he escaped. And he just
except this time, the spunky female lawyer drives the van.
Right, and he just strolls into a police station to help question someone. It's like, is anybody going to arrest him? He's right there.
No. He broke out illegally,
I mean, you can't confuse it for anyone else. He has a fucking T for a haircut. How many? I'll look through all my profiles, but I don't think I'll find many T's for haircuts.
As you can expect, the first episode, they did go to Chinatown to investigate a crime, and that had all sorts of fun casual racism that you'd expect for the late 80s.
Yeah, it was 80s, yeah. I guarantee you.
It was straight up, hey, we're going to go to Chinatown, gong noise, and then, yeah.
I mean, fucking G.I. Joe was super racist. Lord knows primetime TV shows could be
stuff aimed at kids were racist. Things aimed at adults were even worse.
Right. Oh my God.
Season 2, they even had a teenage orphan join the crime fighting team. Ooh la la.
I assume also escaped from the
Yes,
orphanage.
escape from an orphanage. So they're going on the lam, driving around. Now they just need to get a gymnast and a talking dog into the mix.
Damn straight.
That show lasted 3 seasons and 66 episodes. A little bit longer than I would have figured, but still not long enough for that sweet, sweet syndication money.
66 episodes? It lasted that long?
It lasted that long.
Oh my god.
Yeah, right?
What was the viewership on something like that? I mean, we could find out, but we're not going to.
Yeah,
but,
well, it wasn't a network show. It was a syndicated, so it just kind of got tooled around to various small end networks like I want to say the Family Channel had it for a hot moment kind of thing.
I thought syndicated meant rerun, so that means it's not a rerun if it's never been run.
Well, there's two different syndication. Actually means that you're selling it to. Let me look up the actual definitions of syndication. Because as far as I know, syndication means you did not get a network to pick it up. You're producing that individually from a network, and then you're selling it to various networks.
Okay, it's like piecemeal instead of like to the main line.
Yes.
Okay,
in fact, I say whatnet so much.
I assumed syndication meant reruns.
Nope. Because they're syndicated TV shows. Hold on. Doing.
So reruns are syndicated, but not syndicated does not mean reruns, right?
Let's see.
If it's a rerun, it's syndicated. But
basically, if you really want the stupid version of syndication, it can be shown on more than one network or one source as one.
Okay, so it's not married to like Fox.
Yes, exactly.
Gotcha. So
if you want the actual technical thing, the act of selling newspaper or magazine articles, photographs, television shows, etc., to other organizations so that they can be published or shown in several places or an instance of this. A syndication company. Yeah.
I keep on, I'm starting to want to watch Modern Family. I mean, I could at any time. I have the ability to, but also I just don't really, I don't want to, but I do. Because like for some reason TikTok keeps on shoving clips in my face, and and some of the clips I've seen are pretty funny, so I'll watch them. Okay, I'm done now, and I'll move on. Like a few swipes later, there's another fucking clip. Like Jesus Christ, man!
It's been on the air for a long time, and I mean, yeah. When you're plotting out the best parts of a show, it's pretty easy for every clip to seem like a banger, I guess.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because I think I've watched an episode. It was fun. I followed the first couple episodes. It was fine. I mean, I liked it. I laughed. Fun was had, but I wasn't like, oh my god, this is. I must watch every episode.
Yeah, I consider that kind of like Parks and Rec, where it's like, hey, this is always funny clips, but it's almost always Ron Swanson clips. And if you really want that, just watch a bunch of Ron Swanson clips. If you watch the actual show, you get a whole lot of.
Yeah, I mean, I think I watched the first couple episodes. It was fine, just like that. It was fine. I don't hate it. I'm not gonna say it's bad. I'm just
yeah. Somebody talked me into watching Parks and Rec first like 5 seasons. I was like, yeah, all right. It kind of what every show does, where it's like the first 2 seasons are kind of rough, then like seasons 3 through 6 are really good, and then after that, it's everybody's having kids and dating.
Yeah.
It's like everybody's got in this show has to be in a relationship somehow. Woo!
Another thing I actually kind of I want with TikTok is that someone like critiquing Seventh Heaven. Remember that show?
Yes, I do.
Well, not really critiquing, just making fun of it. There's this one clip where the pastor's the dad, and he's like having this talk with his wife, and she like very dramatic, and she goes like, "I smoked pot once," and you get this look on his face like. She slept with someone else. It's like, come on, man. Like
his jaw drops, his dramatic zoom in on the face. Dun dun dun.
There was one where he suspected this girl was in a gang or something, and so like he didn't even talk to her about it. He just went straight to her parents and said she's in a gang, and then she gets her ass kicked and gets into the hospital, and no one looks at the pastor going. You were extremely irresponsible. I can't believe you did that. My daughter almost died. What the fuck are you doing? No, everyone just like, oh, here comes that good man who came by and like stuck his no one asked him to get involved. He just inserted himself in the situation. Like no one asked him. I've also fallen into the worst movie ever with Steven Seagal. TikTok's starting to show me those too. Where it's just like Steven Seagal. I mean, dude doesn't get up. And he gets
worst movie ever? Which one of them? Because there's like 10
all of them. All of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, every single one. It's this kind of like the title, but you're the one who got me on that stuff. But yeah, it's just like every single one. It's just like all the movies are bad. There's like,
and they
this is the
dub
worst
over
movie
his
ever.
voice in a lot of them too, because he just sits
Oh,
there and
dude.
mumbles.
It's mumbles, and it's not even good. And then there was one where like his body double did a walking up the stairs, and they didn't even attempt to hide it wasn't him.
Oh,
It
yeah,
was-
totally. Yeah, they'll use a body double for him even just jogging lightly across a room.
Yeah, well, apparently, like the guy said, he apparently doesn't want to run on camera because he does look stupid.
Yeah, well, yeah, I remember when he was young and thin and could run, everybody made fun of him, so...
I mean, there is still a part of me. I have a soft spot in my heart for Steven Seagal because purely for Under Siege. You know, that's the first movie I saw him in. It was amazing.
All that limb snapping goodness.
All that limb snap. And then there was one more. He did that one. He did Under Siege 2, but Under Siege 2 was the train, wasn't it?
Yes.
It was the train one. So I saw Under Siege 1, Under Siege 2. And then there was a couple other ones I saw, like there was one where I don't know the name of it, but
there's one where you pretend to be an Eskimo and saving the Alaska from oil companies.
Yeah, I was that one.
That one was awful because the end of it literally had like this 15-minute lecture on climate change and stuff.
There was one where he went against like Haitian drug lords, and he had like a voodoo guy, but turns out it was twins. There was that one, and a couple other. I mean, there were other lower ones, but the one I actually saw in the movie theater was Under Siege. And so that's why I have a. But outside of that, like once you get past that, they get older. Just like, oh yeah, he's a piece of shit.
Yeah, so. There was a point after like Under Siege 2 or whatnot where he was big enough that he just said, "I'm only going to call my own shots if you hire me." So that's why he started getting less jobs, and all the jobs he did get, he's just like center attention of everything.
And you should hear. I mean, you probably have, but you should listen to SNL stories about him. Just the cast.
Oh, I have.
Yeah, he is universally, just like without a question, the worst guest they've ever had. And I think Al Franken tells a story where basically the Steven Seagal, his idea of a skit was basically he was a rapist.
Oh, yep, I remember that one.
Yeah, it's like there's no joke, no punchline.
Yeah, he was like a therapist trying to talk a chick into having sex with him or something like that.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Why is this going to be funny?" He's like, "It will be, trust me." They're like,
So, and I mean, I've heard bad things about, several people. Justin Bieber apparently was one. And I mean, but some of those people, like some were like giving him a pass going, look, everyone has their bad times. Everyone has bad days. I'm sure they're like, the experience at SNL was awful. However, that doesn't necessarily mean he's a bad person. Whereas Steven Seagal, like, no. He's a bad person. Yep. He had a bad experience at SNL and he's a bad person.
There's a reason he hides out in Russia most of the time nowadays.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, Mr. T.
In 1993, he played a bearded lady in the movie Freaked, which I believe was a movie about a circus sideshow of freaks. But I remember that because it was kind of like a surprise, like, ooh, Mr. Manly Mr. T is playing a woman. Woo! Even though it's literally just Mr. T with a beard on. And I don't think he acted. He was just him being, I'm here to fool.
Yeah, he was like a background character. They pass by. He's like, flexing, and that's it.
Yeah. If you see the pictures of it, it literally just looks like Mr. T, kind of like in a slightly more colorful outfit with a longer beard. He's like, I'm playing a woman in this. Aha. Like, all right. On top of playing a bearded lady in the movie Freaked in 1993, also saw the comic book Mr. T and the T-Force, produced by Now Comics, got released. That only lasted a year before it was canceled. In an ad for the comic, he states he's fighting a war against topical issues of the time like drug abuse, family problems, racism, child molestation, corrupt politicians, and rapey priests.
And gerrymandering.
Yeah. He goes through all the at the end, he's like, all right, kids, here's the more boring stuff.
look at this tax code.
Yeah, right. All right. First, before we go with this, you got to learn how a bill becomes a law. Are we going to watch Schoolhouse Rock? No. Nothing that fun.
This man evaluated his property a lot more expensive than it should have been.
Yeah, right. Now, here's why a flat tax is not a good idea, kids.
Anyway.
Yeah. But as you can see, obviously, that comic only lasted a year, which was not long enough for him to solve all these problems, as all those world problems are still quite around.
Are you saying comic, like a comic book?
Yes, comic book.
Okay.
That's why it's produced by Now Comics.
Yeah, I don't know. For some reason, I still pictured, I don't know. Whatever. I don't know. My wallet is somewhere else. Continue.
Your wallet is somewhere else?
My mind was somewhere else. I thought, for some reason, I was thinking cartoon, the TV show. I'm like, no, none of that makes sense. I'm pretty sure he said comic.
Yep, I did say comic.
Yep.
All right. And now, Comes 1995, the year tragedy strikes Mr. T. He was diagnosed with a form of skin cancer called T-cell lymphoma. Mr. T even joked about the coincidence of him getting T-cell lymphoma, stating, "Can you imagine that? Cancer with my name on it. Personalized cancer." So he took that in good stride, at least.
Personalized cancer.
But was this a coincidence? Or was this part of something bigger and more arcane, possibly? Allow me to explain my theory on how I believe this coincidence came to be, Nate. We need to travel back to 1970 and Lawrence Tureau's 18th birthday, when Lawrence was wandering around his apartment complex, stressed beyond stressed on how to provide for his family. Suddenly, a shadowy figure in a trench coat emerges and says he has a deal for Lawrence. "Young man, I can give you everything you want. I will ensure you can provide for your mother and family without worry, but for a price." But you see, Lawrence stopped listening after hearing that he could provide for his mother, who had worked so hard to do the same for him, so he happily agreed to this deal. And upon hearing the agreement, the stranger said unto him, "Very well, you shall now gain the power of the T, the power of confidence, personality, and marketability. Thus, henceforth, you will be known as Mr. T." Suddenly, in a Sailor Moon-esque transformation, young Lawrence gained 25 pounds of solid muscle, gained the confidence and fighting skills to become badass, and became Mr. T. "Remember, though," the stranger finished, "the T giveth, but the T also taketh." And he slinked back into the shadows with a sinister chuckle. Still blinded by the joy of being able to provide, Mr. T ignored the weird man's words. And for many years it was good. The T did giveth, as was said, until 1995, when it became time for the T to taketh away in the form of T-cell lymphoma. Naturally, being the badass he is, he defeated cancer with his signature move. He picked up that cancer and chucked it on top of a fire hydrant, defeating it and continuing to live. But now the T no longer giveth, and his career in Hollywood starts to dry up, and we don't see nearly as much of Mr. T as we once did.
Fucking T-cell virus, dude.
Yep.
He like fucking. What if? Oh man, there has to be a mod on Resident Evil somewhere. Maybe only one person have it, but like the T-cell virus turns everyone Mr. T. Can you imagine a city full of Mr. T's? Kind of like the Doofusmurfs episode from Phineas and Ferb, where everyone turns into Doofusmurfs, everyone turns to Mr. T. It's like, oh my god, it's the T virus.
You're just cornered with your revolver, and all of a sudden, just through the door, "I paid the fool, I paid the fool." Instead of like moaning, they're just like, "Fool, fool."
Meanwhile, the real Mr. T is like, "I say more than that.
Yeah,
I say a lot of things. Why just that?
I am more than just a catchphrase, I'll have you know."
You sons of bitches.
Even better, maybe the T-cell, maybe that was the first chance or attempt to make a zombie was with Mr. T. Yeah, the T-cell. Turns out Umbrella was around a long time. They're the ones backing the A-Team, Umbrella.
Yeah, that would be best of. Well, no,
we tried to make a zombie. It turns out we just almost killed a famous celebrity. Oh, well.
If it was Umbrella, they would not be missing it with every shot. Like they would be mowing people down right and left. That would be how they fire their employees. They'd be like, "Hey, go to that set over there," and they just wipe them out for no reason.
In 2006, 80's nostalgia was on the rise, and TV Land gave him a reality show named I Pity the Fool. He was basically a life coach going around motivating people and giving pep talks. It only lasted 6 episodes. He also did a pretty successful World of Warcraft Night Elf campaign that lasted for a short bit. Introduced him to a generation of younger kids, and did the 2011 or 2009 appearance Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, where he played a police officer.
I vaguely remember the commercial. You talk about the commercial, right? Where he's like playing Night Elf.
Yep.
Did he actually play, or was he one of those things like, "Oh yeah, I play, I don't play"?
Supposedly, Blizzard claimed that everybody who was in those ads had a character and played more than X amount of hours. That's what Blizzard says. Whether that's true or not, I don't know.
That's what they said.
Yeah, it might be how all YouTubers claim that they love Raid Shadow Legends.
Oh my god, dude! Raid Shadow Legends can go fuck itself. I get so many ads on TikTok. Raid Shadow Legends, or my favorite is like, everyone said this game doesn't really exist. I'm like, dude, of course it exists. There's just, who cares? Just shut up. Leave me alone.
2011, he hosted a clip show titled World's Craziest Fools. Lasted 20 episodes over 2 seasons. Security cam footage of dumb people doing dumb stuff. There's a lot of shows around that time doing the same thing, so he just kind of hopped on that bandwagon.
Oh yeah, Trevor K. Wilson was talking about that. How he would just like basically be a nice Tosh 2.0.
Yeah. 2017 was his last big television appearance on Dancing with the Stars, where he and Kim Johnson were eliminated in week 4, placing 10th overall. After that, it's mostly been commercials and voice bits here and there, if anything. He is active on Twitter, though, and spends most of his time enjoying retirement and doing a lot of charity work for his church. So there we have the story of Mr. T, Gen X icon and apparently a bit of a badass. When he's not dropping people on fire hydrants, he's chopping down trees or kicking cancer's ass. Any questions or statements?
For a minute there, I thought you were just going to say he did it with Kim Jong-un. What? Yay, Mr. T. I mean, like I said, I remember, I think I had a toy of him once. It's been gone for forever. But I remember having a toy with him once.
You don't go to bed with it every night anymore?
No, not anymore. And I remember, honestly, I can't, when I think of him, I think of the A-Team. I know he does so many other things, but just like the A-Team, he'll always be A-Team. And
that's what he'll always be remembered for.
It is really sad, like when I see him now. And first of all, like, hey, where's your tea? And then, where are your gold chains? Of course, he's like, 1,000 now. So, and it really sucks seeing people from your youth that are old now. I mean, that happens.
Like every time you look in a mirror, Nate. Every time you look.
Every time I look in the mirror, like right now, I'm like, oh, my back hurts. My lower back hurts. I'm like, well, shit, this sucks. And especially when I see my kids, I'm like, you guys are so fucking young, you little shits.
How dare you have these problem-free childhoods like all children do?
Well, hell, you suffer the same thing. You might not have kids, your own kids look at, but you work in a fucking school. So you see, like, you're like, oh, man, you stand up too fast. You're like, oh, man, my knees, whatever. And you look around and see this fucking little, 10-year-old asshole who's like, look at me, I did a somersault, and I fell down. I popped right back up, and it kept on going. Like, you son of a bitch. I'll steal your youth.
This is where the ending jingle goes. This is where the ending jingle goes. This is where the ending jingle goes. I don't know if we need one. I don't know if we'll get one. But if we do, then here is where it goes.